project is going to be editing and cropping in Photoshop. I've opened my image in Photoshop. I have clicked on the Photoshop icon. It's opened. I've gone File, and then I've gone to Open. If you have a program called Adobe ACR, that might trip you up a little bit when you're opening things. You'll notice I've selected my images and it kind of opens up into this funny box. All you have to do is to select your image, and then down here it says open. So don't worry about any of this right now, just say open. We'll talk more about some of those options later on in the course. Right now we don't really need to worry about it. The first thing that I want you to do is, if you look on your left hand side, about a third of the way down is going to be your crop tool. And we'll select that. It's going to give us some options up here. I want you guys to go ahead and type in 5.5 and make sure you put in inches, otherwise it'll do it in pixels, and 11 inches on this side. So this will give you your crop ratio, and when you're in your crop tool, several handlebars will come up. So I'm going to just go up here and grab it so that I'm cropping it right where I want it to be. This can be another really great area to kind of play with your composition overall. When you're finished, you can either double click inside of it, or you can hit return. So you've got kind of two options that you can play with in regards to how you want to do that. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that grid back there. All right, so that looks good, and then I'm just going to simply hit return. So now I have my composition. It looks a little flat, so I'm going to be doing a couple of different adjustments to work with that. The first adjustment that I'm going to be doing is something called a brightness adjustment. We're going to be using a little bit more sophisticated tools. So here you'll notice that there's brightness and contrast, and we can certainly do that. But what we're actually going to be doing is going to levels. And when you see, I refer to these as mountains and hills, you can take your black slider and slide it over if there aren't any hills yet. And then if you need to bring your white one over. So basically you're looking to bring these over where the hills and the mountains start. If you don't have kind of that gap right there, you don't need to do anything. You can also brighten the adjustment by using the gamma slider, which is right here. So if I go to my right, it makes it darker, and if I go to my left, it makes it lighter. So this is just a more subtle, more sophisticated way of making that adjustment. And then you can simply close it by hitting this double arrow right here. So you've got your image, you've got a levels adjustment, which is adjusting the brightness, and then the next thing that I'm going to be doing is a curves adjustment. In a curves adjustment, you're going to drop a point right here, which is right smack in the middle. You're going to drop a point right here, which is about a third of the way down, and then a third of the way up. What we're going to be doing is called an S-curve, and I'm just going to really gently pull it down and really gently pull it up, and this is just by clicking on those 2 points. What's really nice about Photoshop is I can preview the adjustments that I'm making. So if I look over here and I turn it on and off, I like how it's making those colors pop a little bit more. So you can see it's a little bit more of a dynamic use of color value range. It's making it pop a little bit more. These are optional. If your photograph looks really great and you don't want to add contrast and you don't want to add brightness, you do not need to do these adjustments. You do need to crop it to that size. And then our last adjustment that we can go in and we can manipulate is going to be hue and saturation. You can play around with hue. All students, they take this slider and they love to do this with it, which, yes, is certainly awesome and is really fun. And this example isn't really making it too different. Right now, though, go ahead and leave that at 0. We'll play a lot more in Photoshop later on in the course. And then here, if you want to push your contrast, you don't want to push it too far where it looks kind of artificial, but you can push it a little bit, or you could desaturate it. So you can kind of go one way or the other. I wouldn't push it too extremely right now. Like I said, we're going to play a lot in Photoshop a little bit later in the course. But if you wanted to just give a little bit of an oomph to the color, you could do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down, I'm going to turn all of these off so you can see I started with a fairly flat image, adjusting the brightness, adjusting the contrast, and adjusting the saturation. So right now I have a Photoshop document, so I'm going to go File, and when I go to Save, I'm going to save onto my computer just for right now. I'm going to save it in a place where I will remember it. And I'm going to name it something that I'm going to remember. So right now I'm going to call it Caitlin. And I am going to save it as a Photoshop document first, so I'm including layers, and I'll say save. Now to upload and to submit for our project, I need you guys to go to File, Save As. Once again, saving on my computer. And now instead of that Photoshop document, you need to make sure that you're saving it as a JPEG. This you definitely need to make sure that you name last name and underscore collage and then sequentially. So what you'll submit on Canvas is last name underscore collage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm going to go ahead and say save. And I'll say okay. You don't need to worry about these too much. You're saving a fairly high resolution file. And so you're ready to go. So I'll say okay. And my file is saved. I've got a JPEG that I can then go into Canvas and upload for my assignment. So these are the steps to save, edit, and upload for the collage assignment. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is the critique process.